Dale, and thank you for my invite along this morning. Of course, I'm Cammy, the new council leader. I've been in this job for less than a year, and this is, of course, my first visit to the ETAG conference. But I wanted to put on record my huge thanks to Donald and Mags for all the work they do in ETAG as well. It's an absolute pleasure to be here today with you, our hugely important tourism sector, and I do appreciate the invitation. I did want to talk to you today about Edinburgh's visitor economy and the road ahead. As you know well, more than I do, tourism is one of the capital's greatest success stories. And you'll be well aware of the numbers pre-pandemic, attracting just under 5 million visitors to our city every year, with a spend of over £4 million per day, and a spend, on average, tourism generated just under £5 billion for this city, for its businesses, back in 2019. And at a time then when the sector employed over 33,000 of our 513,000 residents, creating opportunities for residents across our communities, upskilling our workforce and attracting talent from across the world. Supported by our size and our transport links, our city acts as a point of entrance for international firms. And I think it's also attractive to domestic firms who want to internationalise their efforts. That, for me, is the basis of the visitor economy, a fundamental part of our city's overall economy. When we reviewed the city's economic strategy back in 2021, there was a key focus, and we recognise that the visitor economy will play an integral part in our role in our quest for a stronger, greener and fairer economy. And for me, that's the premise behind the ongoing work and regional partners across the southeast of Scotland, building on the huge successes of the networks that we've developed through the city-region deal. And I'm confident in the coming weeks and months ahead, this will lead to the formation of a tourism network in the very near future. Not to mention our successful work with Visit Scotland and other national partners in recognition of our key role as a gateway to the whole of Scotland. And that, of course, I think as Donald touched on, was the starting point for The Story Never Ends, the destination marketing campaign from Forever Edinburgh. That proposition that I'm sure you're familiar with celebrates our capital city's enduring and endearing spirit by telling prospective inbound visitors about the city's unrivalled and unique stories that differentiate Edinburgh from rival cities here in the United Kingdom and, I think, across the world. The campaign has run successfully back since April 2021 with a range of summer and winter themed content already in the works. As Donald mentioned, just before the pandemic, we agreed a new tourism strategy for the city, and that set out a clear vision of Edinburgh's tourism sector leading the way as an exemplar in achieving environmentally sustainable urban tourism. And unlike our previous tourism strategy, focus is not on driving tourism growth, but on managing the growth responsibly. And let me stop and be clear for a second and clarify this does not mean anyone trying to stop visitors coming to our city here in Edinburgh. And I hope we make clear we fully recognise the huge importance of the industry to the city's wider economy, and the tourism sector will continue to grow responsibly. Our role, all of us together, is to manage that growth, to ensure that Edinburgh's built heritage, our natural environment, is cherished and cared for as a fundamental aspect of the city's character, so that Edinburgh retains its authenticity as a living and working city with a reasonable balance between tourism and other aspects of economic activity. As a council, of course, we must also demonstrate how we can improve our core day-to-day services and deliver for everyone, for all of the people in Edinburgh, by prioritising where there's the most need and where we can create the biggest impact. And that, for me, is a key part of our recently refreshed business plan presented to Council in December, and I'm sure will influence the budget discussions in the next 2 weeks. But despite recent events and difficult decisions facing all of us, we mustn't lose sight of the good news. For instance, productivity rates and average earnings in Edinburgh remain higher than any UK city out with London. We're still the second largest financial centre and a leading fintech hub, retaining our strong record of entrepreneurship, innovation and a growing international airport. We're the most livable city in the world according to the Sustainable Cities Index of 2018 and top city in the UK for prospects for economic growth according to the Vitality Index in 2019. That's not to say, I think, again, as Donald touched on, these past 3 years haven't been hugely difficult for us. For all of you here today have a part to play in steering the sector through these stormy times, and for that, I genuinely thank you. We live in an amazing city. We're incredibly proud of our castles, our town, our old town, but we also have other fantastic places that we want our visitors to see, and we want them to experience all of that. I want to see our visitors see the beautiful shores and beaches of Cramond, of Portobello, experience the shore in Leith and explore the town centres in Queensferry, Stockbridge and Morningside and many others, and experience the amazing scenery of the hills that surround us. And when we consider tourism in these areas outside the city centre, we shouldn't be thinking purely of those who visit the city. For me, it's just as important that our residents are able to access and feel welcome in all of our attractions across the city also. Our teams are working hard to ensure that and striving to connect with those who, for a variety of reasons, don't feel part of their own city. So I want to put local people at the heart of everything we do, giving each person living in Edinburgh the ability to participate in all of community cultural events and activities. But I recognise, as I'm sure you all do, that our city centre has been particularly hit badly, but not only by the loss of visitors, but the loss of office workers. COVID-19 has significantly impacted on the city centre's economies due to the reliance on mobility and social proximity. Offices, restaurants, cafes, bars, retail and theatre all closed during a lockdown and have since been affected by the continued physical distance and behavioural change. As with more positive, the collective effect of city centres is expected to continue, and we've seen that on the side, to provide benefit to businesses, to wider sectors, and of course to people. We've seen new businesses choose to locate here in our city centre over the pandemic period and beyond, with new offices blocks being built and new workspaces. We also know very well that our culture and leisure venues continue to attract people into the city, especially to larger events such as live concerts and major sporting events. But we don't yet fully understand the full implications of COVID. But we do know that even without COVID, the role of the city centre was changing. Here in Edinburgh, however, our planning for that began many years ago. The transformation of the city centre started well before the pandemic to mirror evolving consumer purchasing trends and how people use our high streets. People have seen the opening of the fantastic St James Quarter to the east of the city and the fabulous Johnny Walker experience in the west. They've already made a huge positive and exciting bookends to Princes Street's changing landscape. And it's testament, I think, to our city's enduring appeal that major landmark projects such as these are now coming to fruition. And that's also due, I think, in no small part to the changes that we've made as a planning policy, encouraging mixed-use developments, allowing new projects to take advantage of world-renowned vistas across Princes Street to the castle, where historically these have been wasted on storage rooms. We'll be making the city centre a more people-friendly place where residents and visitors can enjoy spending time using our bars, restaurants, live music and leisure to keep the city centre vibrant for longer. And you only have to walk around the city centre to see the progress being made to breathe new life into other historic and iconic buildings in the city. The care and attention devoted to preserving the original features on sites, for example, like the old India buildings on Victoria Street, which opened late last year as a new Virgin Hotel, the first in the United Kingdom out with the USA. And of course, there's well advanced plans for the new music school at the old Royal High School up at Waterloo Place. Not necessarily the outcome that everybody in this room might have wanted, but no one can argue the need to invest and bring that building back into use. It's well overdue. And I've been impressed, as I'm sure many people here will, by the work on the upper floors of 30 Princes Street, the old Forsyths and Topshop, as a new hotel with restoration of the gilded globe roof sculpture on the roof already underway. Further to the west, we now have the Haymarket development, an impressive £350 million mixed-use development featuring 3 Grade A office blocks and over 350,000 square feet, and a 190 hotel room, 172 apart hotel, space for 40,000 square foot of retail and leisure space, and work underway already for our new hotel school with the Edinburgh International Conference Centre. Further into the new town, work underway at the new town quarter along Dundas Street, boasting new homes, places to work. New town quarter will of course be anchored by the Network, Scotland's greenest and finest office space, offering 83,000 square foot of open layout, social space and flexible floor plans. The significant progress in bringing these iconic buildings back to life, returning them into public use, demonstrates the value of development in our fantastic World Heritage sites. But it's also a massive endorsement of the city's economic buoyancy and resilience, that despite the previous recession, COVID and now record inflation, these developments remain viable in our city. And for all of that, it's clear that we'll continue to provide some intervention to further support a city centre to retain vibrant, innovative, inclusive and sustainable places that any response will have to be flexible and adaptive to the different future scenarios that we will undoubtedly face. And that's why it's so exciting, I think, that we've had so much activity in this space, and I'm sure we'll see more over the coming years. Many of these developments promote some of the most sustainable methods and materials available in the construction industry and in the world. And in line with our city's ambition to get to net zero by 2030, 7 years away, and of course our links to the city's enviable public transport networks. This of course includes our amazing tram project, which I'm sure you'll all be familiar with, good or bad. And I don't want to steal George or Lee's thunder for later, but it's only a matter of months now until we complete the line to Newhaven, a huge milestone for the city and for the council. And I'm delighted that we're still on track to deliver that in time and within that budget. I've continued to thank our residents and our businesses many times for their patience and understanding and perseverance through this work. And I'm confident this part of Edinburgh will bloom, and indeed the whole city will reap the benefits of a fantastic tram and integrated bus network. We're already seeing huge numbers of benefits along the route develop, from traders occupying the newly refurbished Steads Place development on Leith Walk to the waterfront neighbourhoods planned for Ocean Terminal, really positive signs of things to come. And aligned to our ambitious net zero ambition is our city centre transformation programme, which will create a much more people-friendly city centre, where streets are safer, where streets are more enjoyable to walk, to wheel and spend time in. And over the next 10 years, we aim to deliver much of this vision through projects like George Street and the First Newtown, which will of course transform this area to promote more pedestrianisation, cycling, walking, wheeling for those who are shopping and socialising around the city centre. This alongside the Meadows to George Street, a safe and welcoming walking and cycling route from the south to the north, and the city centre west to east link to promote more projects around walking, wheeling and cycling, as well as continue to create more public spaces for people to enjoy the views of our city, including the Lothian Road Boulevard, dramatically improving the street as a destination, and work to deliver a network of connected high quality, largely car-free destinations across the old town. Other new investments further into the city, including in the pipeline, are of course our huge grant and waterfront development of 1.3 regeneration in the north of the city that we want to be another destination for people to attend. The £75 million Dundas Centre in the city centre, Edinburgh's first purpose-built music venue in over 100 years since the Usher Hall was opened back in 1914. A concert hall with a 1,000 auditorium designed by David Chipperfield, situated in the heart of the city centre on St Andrews Square. I was lucky enough this week to be invited to the handover of the old RBS building, marked by a beautiful performance by a Scottish Chamber Orchestra cellist Sue Ali. But also interesting here, the plans for the hall and the surrounding area will finally honour the plans set out in James Craig's original Newtown designs in opening up that corner of the city, having been scuppered 250 years ago by Sir Lawrence Dundas, who built his own big private home there, blocking access. So that will hugely change, I think, that corner of the city, linking into Miltrees Walk and into the St James Quarter. And turning from that to another, I know that many of you here will be wondering what will be happening about the transient visitor levy, or TVL. So I'll take this opportunity to update you with what I know on this. I have recently written to the Minister. We did have a helpful response to that, which I'm happy to share with Donald. So as you know, we've long made the case for the TVL, and in order to sustain and support the level of activity we need in this city, to support the visitor economy, whilst balancing the needs of residents, we need major investment in our services and our infrastructure. A well-designed progressive visitor levy could generate over £15 million to help contribute to these costs. This funding would support our cultural events, would help keep Edinburgh looking at its very best and contribute to the wider infrastructure right across the city. And I'm clear with the Scottish Government that the decision should be ours on how this money is spent, and it must be in addition to the Council's core block grant, and finally be for the benefit of the economy and the local residents of Edinburgh. We're told that ministers will lay the bill before Parliament in Easter this year, and once we have this, I absolutely commit to work with the sector across the city as our key stakeholders on how that income from the TVL can be best used going forward for the benefit of the city and the industry as a whole. It's of course no secret that we face some unique housing issues in the city, and with a small but densely populated city centre and fast-growing population, combined with the annual surge in visitors we receive for the festivals, result in high demand for accommodation every August, September. In all of this, it's absolutely critical for us to strike that right balance for our residents, the overwhelming majority of whom believe regulation is non-negotiable. We can't forget that many have endured years of disturbance and antisocial behaviour, and we owe it to them to get this right. The change in policy and short-term lets, for example, will help us control the number of properties being unsuitably used in this way, and crucially to protect both hosts and tenants. I am clear, however, that we must be aware of the unintended consequences of this. I want to make sure that this results in a better balance in housing supply for residents all year round, without stopping people from renting out rooms to performers and those attending during our festivals. And I do believe there's more we can do to lighten the burden for hosts such as exemptions for the August period, and something I'm keen to explore further with Council colleagues and the Scottish Government and with some of you here today. So to finish, there's been a huge amount of change here in Edinburgh, and you have been a huge and integral part of that, but it is only the beginning for me in my new role. There's a lot more to come, and I want to continue playing your part in this as well. We need a genuinely collaborative approach. I think Donald touched on it then, and I want to ensure that everyone can benefit from the transformational opportunity for the visitor and wider economy. So let's continue to do what we do and work together, working as that Team Edinburgh to provide an ever more exciting and cosmopolitan offering for our residents, for our visitors, for students and for investors, and for everyone who works, lives and visits our wonderful capital city. Thank you for listening.